Yeah, I want to say hi to Eric too. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Eric. Bruce, you want to say hello to Eric?
Hey, Eric.
Ralph?
Thanks for joining us. Eric, get off my lawn.
There you go. Sparky 107 wants to know how can he get to watch a modeler's life or listen to a modeler's life? How can
if he goes to amodelerslife.com, there's links there to the free site, which is Libsyn and iTunes, and there's other. You can get it on Google Play. He can get it on TuneIn and Spotify. But if he goes to the website, amodelerslife.com, there's links right there.
Zappa Gap.
Yeah. It's a CA type glue. Kevin said Flexifile plastic weld. And Ron was saying MEK.
No, I can use. No, I can weld with acetone. That works. It's beautiful. But I can't print this job in ABS. It has to be PLA.
So what I have here is, you'll see that I've got 9 different LEDs on here, and they're just kind of slowly changing. One comes on, one comes off. You know, it's kind of a slow pace, and we could sit here all night watching this very slowly go. But, you know, if you actually had these in windows in your different buildings, or even one in each different building, it doesn't even have to be windows in the same building, then you'd want it to go this slow or maybe even slower. And that's about the only thing I'm going to have to show you in the sketch. So we're going to go back to that real quick. Let's build this thing first. So I just put it together so that you could see what we're going to end up doing. And what I'm going to do is just unplug my Arduino and tear this thing apart real quick.
Hey, howdy, howdy, howdy. Looks like everybody's doing pretty good. Alright, now why am I streaming that? I should be streaming. Oh, there's Steve. Alright, let me see what's going on here with the camera because that's showing the wrong monitor.
I jinxed you.
No. I've been having problems here lately. Well, it's on the right one. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Eric, man.
I don't come by for a few weeks and you guys move on me.
Yep. Alright, why is this not capturing my right screen? It's supposed to be display 2.
Where'd it go now? Okay.
No. There we go. It swapped around on me. Now we got everybody going.
Right.
Yeah, that's right, Eric. But I'll tell you what, right now you don't want to be messing with OBS. Because they have really broke that thing pretty good right now. I've had to go back several versions to get to a version that actually still works right. As you can see.
Glad I haven't jumped into it yet then.
Yeah, well, we're looking into something different.
And that seems to be what everybody's using, but a lot of people are having problems with it.
Yeah, well, best I can tell them is don't use 23. Go back to 22.
22.
Yep. The first time we put 23 update out, they broke it, the recording. Then the next update fixed that, but screwed up the frame rates between the frame keys between the video and audio. So now the video and audio are not syncing. So we're having a good old time with that.
It's like an Italian movie.
Yeah. Really.
Need subtitles.
Yeah, right.
Sam, oh, here. Let me put the link back in one more time for you. Yeah, MH Junction just did, so that's the new link. Yes, when we changed over, we had changed links and all that. So, thank you, Lord. I got enough problems already right now. Alrighty. There's
Hey.
Sam.
Hey,
Sam.
how you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well.
Living the nightmare. I mean, dream.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Steve 87th PS&P Railroad. Wow, that's a lot of chat. You ain't seen nothing yet. Dwight wants to know if you're near Cedar Falls, Sam.
Cedar Falls, like Iowa Cedar Falls?
I guess.
That'd be kinda. I'm Quad Cities area, so I think we're like an hour-ish away from Cedar Falls. We're in like Rock Island and
Yeah, he said
Rock
Iowa. Cedar
Yeah.
Falls, Iowa, because they got a good hobby shop there, he said.
yeah. I think I've been there. I don't remember what it was called, but I was there a long time ago,
Yeah.
and I didn't afford anything in it, so I didn't buy anything. But yeah, we're about an hour away from there, roughly. So, and I went to a train show too, so I got a bunch of stuff from that. Not a bunch of stuff, but just a little bit of stuff.
All right, if I get my camera working now.
Any new toys is a good day.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I
I
was
mean-
over at John's today, and we try and get these turnouts situated right coming off the main line for the yard. I'm having to switch. I was going to do everything in number 6s, and that was not working out whatsoever. So I'm having to use number 5s in the yard and all. And when I first started laying it out, John's kind of looking at it, and he goes, "Can we move these turnouts back?" I went, "Well, I guess we could." So I've been playing around with that, and I got one side. Well, if you're facing the yard, it's the right-hand side or the east end of it. I moved it back probably a good 1.5 feet. Hey, Curtis. Been a while since you've been in. But before I left, I got looking at this thing, and I'm going, yeah, okay. We're fixing to move the west end of it down about maybe a foot. And at the shortest track on there in the blueprint is only like not quite 3 feet long. Now that thing's daggone 6 feet long.
Man.
I didn't know I'd
What a-
moved it that much.
A lot of car storage there.
Yeah, well, the bottom track is mainly to, because over on the left-hand side or the west end of it, that's where the diesel house is, and the
Okay.
got a single stall steam house for a steam engine. And I think we'll be able to put in the diesel fueling station there.
Cool.
And before it was looking like I had enough room, I could actually put in a stub end track to, say, I don't know, store a few locos on or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Sure.
I measured my yard width, because I have like, just looking at it, I have like a foot of width, but like all my turnouts are in the center. So I realized it's like 4 tracks, but they're not exactly spaced evenly. But to space it evenly, I could fit like 8 tracks and it's 3. No, it's not 3 feet. It's math. Not 6 feet because it's not that big. No, it is 6 feet. Never mind. It's like 6 feet ish, all the way down. So I'm going to have more space than I thought, and that's good because I was worried about space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use
John.
new math. You could probably do 12 tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. How you doing, JC? Eric said, must be that new math. Yeah.
Where it's like 5 times 1 is 5, and 1 times 5 is 1, or something. It's like, okay.
Yeah. You got me, Eric. I don't know what ish is, but I don't think it's metric.
I'm in West Virginia. We still use our fingers and toes and stuff. So
Yeah.
tracks aren't 2.5 on center. They're 2 fingers between the rails. You know.
Yeah. Hey, Joel, he's got something going on here. He said, well, I'm having fun. I'm building a turntable for my ON30 layout.
Cool.
Got both the inner and outer circle laid and the wheels on the cross span. I am hand laying, making it all. Okay.
That's a chore.
Did you hear that Shinohara and Walthers like split, and now they don't make turnouts for Walthers?
I heard something about Shinohara. I thought they were going out of business or something.
Yeah, they're Walthers and Shinohara. Shinohara is done, so Walthers is like copying their templates and just producing it under Walthers instead of Walthers Shinohara. So that kind of screwed me over because I use Walthers Shinohara and I only have 4 turnouts laid, and they aren't coming in for 6 months. It's a 6-month back order. So, yeah.
Well, it's going to give you a little time to save you money so you can buy plenty.
Yeah.
Scratch building them.
Yeah.
I've done the math. I've done the modern math.
Oh.
And I'm thinking there's like 23 of them left in the world. So that aren't on eBay where they're going to charge me too much money for them. So I found like 3 websites that have 6 left. So I'm just going to rob them of their turnouts and then hope that I have enough.
Yeah, Warbond says it's time for you to start hand laying your own turnouts.
I would do that, but I'm not too great with a soldering iron.
Well, you will be once you get started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, as we found out like 3 weeks ago when, I lost a tip and water got in it. So,
Did it dry out and start working again, or?
I haven't tried, mostly because I still don't know where the tip is, because I took it out trying to like get the thing apart to like dry it out, and then I don't know where the tip went. It just disappeared. I mean, it was like over here somewhere, and now it's not there. So I don't know where that is. Actually, I just got an idea. I think I know where it is. Hold on.
Came to a conclusion faster than I would have. It must be nice to be young.
Usually my stuff ends up in a box and I can't find it for 10 years.
I just recently went through all my boxes. I hadn't been through a lot of them in years and years. It was amazing the stuff that I found that I forgot that I even had. It's like, wow, look at this. It's like a new toy.
What you just mentioned is what I was going through when I was moving recently. And I'm decided I bought a set of like the containers. I'm going to start taking the totes and start sorting everything, so I can at least see what I have packed away for 30 years.
Yeah.
So, Sam's still looking.
No, yeah, it's definitely gone. And it's never coming back.
Well, I knew one.
Yeah.
I mean, it was okay. It was like $10 at a hardware store. So,
Just found my rechargeable ISA tip, but the batteries are gone. I got to order some. I love that thing, but I got to order some new rechargeable batteries for it. It's really nice for doing real fine soldering.
Hmm.
And the fact that I don't have a cord too makes it great. You don't have to worry about that. Like to have resistance solder. I just have not been willing to come off that kind of money for a long time. I'd love to have one though.
Yeah, really.
How's it working? Does it work well?
It's great. I mean, the one that I got, I needed a battery for the rechargeable. The resistance I don't have yet, but no, I used to use it for electronics years ago. Is why I originally bought it, and kind of put it away for a while, and then just got it out again to charge it, and the batteries are shot. So I'm just gonna have to order a couple new batteries for it. It's great though. It's really a wonderful little tool. It heats up really fast. It's got a button on it, and as soon as you release it, it gets cool really fast.
Right. Yeah, I had something like that back in the 80s when Weller first brought one out. I burned the heck out of it. Almost within 6 months. It just couldn't take it in those days. Battery wasn't up to par on the early stages, and just I blew it out. I think, speaking of that, I think it's packed in one of those boxes. But yeah, it's a shame, but I gotta get something. I wouldn't mind having something like that, something that's wireless.
Yeah, I've got 3 other irons that I do use, but they're all wired. That wireless just makes things so easy. You can take it from one place to another and not have to worry about, well, do I have an extension cord to get me there? Or
yeah, I think that's why I was so intrigued with the Weller at the time.
Oh yeah, if nobody noticed or actually knew, but one of our kind of regulars here, Robert Holloman, he and his wife had a baby. Well, I think it was Monday.
cool. Congratulations, Robert. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
9 pounds, 9 ounces, I think it was.
That's big.
Yeah, I figure his wife, by the time she gets home, she's going to beat the crap out of him. Don't you ever do that to me again. Yeah, Warbonnet, I never can pronounce his name. He said he used a HAKKO soldering iron, had it for over 15 years. It's still running great. Sam?
yeah.
Bob of DeBob's Man Cave.
Yeah.
He said he found your tip. It was in the lint trap of his dryer. He said he found your soldering iron tip. It's in the lint trap of his clothes dryer.
Oh, mail it to me. Well, this is like I said, I went to a train show and I got some Milwaukee Road stuff. And this one, which is weathered, kind of, slightly.
Yeah.
So,
Alright.
yeah, got new stuff. Katie couplers, metal trucks.
All right,
So-
let me get back up here in the chat because Michael did ask a question. See if I can find it again because I was going to bring it up. All right, where'd you go, Mike? Here it is. He said, is anyone familiar with Z stuff, HO signals, and how do they compare with international or other brands?
I don't really know that brand.
Uh-uh.
I've heard of it. I just don't know much about it.
I've only used a few different brands of signals. That's just one I'm unfamiliar with. I started making a lot of my own, so. There's a lot of good ones out there, I bet, but I don't know how to compare that.
Which ones have you used?
I like NJ International. I mean, I do B&O, so there's a specific, semaphore and stuff for B&O, and that limits you down to a few companies that actually make that particular one. And NJ International had a really nice one. There was some, I had a bunch that were plastic casts from years ago, like NPJ, or I don't remember. I don't think the manufacturer's around anymore. And I took a bunch of those and used grain of wheats and made lights from their cast products out of, and those ended up being okay. But I think now with the new tiny LEDs that are out there, I think I would like to revisit redoing a bunch of those. I just like doing things inexpensively, and signals are expensive when you need a bunch for a layout.
Yeah.
I mean, you could spend as much on that as you can rolling stock, and I unless I win the lottery, I just can't do that.
Oh,
Well, we got
I
a
see what
new
you-
one. Well, he's really not all that new, but he hadn't been in the chat for a long time. Silly Westies. That's Ken up there in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Hey, Ralph, how you doing?
Blue Ridge Mountains. My engine blew on my truck in the Blue Ridge Mountains last week.
Hopefully you was at the top and say, we'll just coast down.
Well, I was at the top, and I did coast most of the way down, but I still had 2.5 hours to drive home, so that didn't happen. Looking for a bigger truck to haul more trains.
Driver says, anyone know of someone making rotary couplers?
That's something I have not got into.
there's nobody that's making rotary couplers as such, but I think there was an article many years ago in Model Railroad or one of the magazines saying how to adapt them. But that's a trick in itself.
Let's see, Roy, Container Man. He said, okay, I'm not on here enough to know everyone on the panel. He said he knows me and Sam. He said, who are the other two? Oh, they're just a couple of guys that were walking down the street and saw the door open. The one making faces, that's Cabana Bob. He's been around here for a while now, and he just made the move from up north,
Yeah.
a little further down south here. And the other fella, if you've been watching, well, you were posting in G+, but you post Facebook now. This is Stu Structures. He's one building the Beanery Hotel. What was that, 18, 19 shows, videos?
I think the last show ended up being 24 total in the series of building that building.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I think tomorrow I release a fourth one in the freight station build that I just started. Yeah, it took a lot longer to do than I had hoped.
Yeah. You have to come over and check out, I opened up a channel on MeWe.com. It's called Riding the Rails South. I didn't put any restrictions on it, so you can just hit the join button and join up. You can post your stuff right there too if you want to.
Riding the Rail South. What's the website you said?
MeWe. MEWE.
Okay. Yeah, come check it out. Might be doing a little more watching of videos here. With all I got going on now, that my videos may slow down a little bit. And at the end of the day, I'm so wiped out, I may just have to lay down and watch videos versus work on my own a little more than normal.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got done with my day right before I came in here and joined you. It's just that time of year for me.
Yeah, Dave BNSF said he just found it. So, welcome
Cool.
in, Dave. You got stuff you want to post it up there.
How's the platform? I'm unfamiliar with that one.
Well, it's new. What they're doing is building it a lot like G+.
Okay.
They still got a lot of stuff to add to it, but it's up and running, and it seems to be playing okay. I've been posting shows over there.
Is it not controlled by all the big names that are having issues with all these other channels, or is it more of an independent thing?
I think it's more of an independent.
Cool. I'm all for supporting that kind of thing. Sam, how big's your turntable?
It's 130.
130?
Yeah.
It's a nice size.
Thank you. It's actually my plan called for a 90-foot turntable, and I didn't realize that until after I got this. So that was kind of big hit in the gut. But I've always wanted something that could fit all the big steam engines.
Yeah.
So I just made it work.
Yeah. I know the one I need was really 115 foot in Grafton, but nobody really makes one. But the brass EM1s and stuff, the 2884s, if you put them on a scale 115, I mean, they even hung over the real one. But I think I'm just going to try to find a 120 foot or make one 120 foot and use it instead, I think.
Yeah, they might I know Walters doesn't make a 120. They might make a 120. I don't know for sure.
Walthers, yeah, they used to.
Yeah, they
It's hard to
did.
get turntables with Walthers right past few years.
Yeah.
Let me answer Michael here. Michael Andy was in the chat. He may be heading home now, so but he used the unsanded grout for ballast.
Hmm.
He never bought the sanded, so I can tell you that he does use the unsanded.
I've been intrigued by that ever since he had brought it up, and I'd like to try that, but I've never. I mean, right? I don't have anything to use it on right now, so I might have to just throw a module or something together just to have something to play with.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave, I tell you what, yeah, YouTube's kind of making things a little more difficult, so we're also looking for something different too ourselves. So when we find something get settled on it, we'll let you know. Tell you what we're using there. Andy, Michael was asking if you were using sanded or unsanded grout for ballast. I told him unsanded.
Yeah, because I'm just using it basically as a coloring agent for ballast. If I was at N scale, I would use sanded grout as the ballast by itself. In my case, I use decomposed granite or leveling sand. They say sifted, and then I use unsanded grout because it's just you could just buy the component parts, the latex adhesive and the pigment. Got a little bit of Portland cement, but you wouldn't have to have that part. But it keeps it from being so rubbery. The latex adhesive is a bit rubbery by itself. So a couple things I wanted to draw attention to you guys had talked about, and I missed a bunch of it, but I just got home, so as quick as I could. See if I can remember. One, you were talking about Facebook and the other posting. On our new website, if you're not a Facebook subscriber, if you don't participate in Facebook, so you can't read our page, you can now go to modelrailroadinglive.com or modelrailroading.live and go to find us online and Facebook feed, and you can read all posts that we make and the community makes. You can read them and not have to be a Facebook member to be able to read the post. You obviously cannot reply to them, but at least you can read them and keep up with people. So it's the only substitute for not having, it's the only substitute if you don't have a Facebook account for whatever personal proclivity that you don't want one for, and I understand that. But that's where all the activity in the world happens. So we did want to make it available to everybody, at least in a read-only format. So I just got that active today. Surgeon couplers. I'm a super fan of those. And part of the reason that I mentioned those as an option for rotating couplers, part of the problem with using KDs for rotating couplers is one of the reasons that I really dislike KDs. They uncouple really easily if you're hot, because they have so much slack and play in them. And that's part of my problem with model railroading, or at least HO scale, across the board. My problem with turnout and track construction, the idea that the NMRA had with their standard, which I treat the NMRA standards as the minimum. This is the minimum bar. You can do better, but at least do this well. And that's a great thing. I think an NMRA gauge, I've argued with several people that it's one of the 5 must-have tools in your arsenal as a model railroader is an NMRA gauge. Buy that, good pair of tweezers, soldering iron, whatever. There's 5 or so tools that you must have. NMRA gauge is one of those. But I treat it as minimum standard. They build too much. Their idea years ago was that you need that if you put enough slop in everything, that you'll get more reliability from it. And for some reason, that works with Japanese automobiles. It makes them last real well. It's the whole reason they work well. It's the tolerances are really, really wide. They last forever, so they wear well. But if you want fine running and reliable performance, what you want is very little tolerance, very close tolerances. So I'm a Proto 87 modeler. I'm not technically an HO scale modeler. Scale wheel sets, all that stuff. Sargent couplers don't uncouple easily. Like I can go grab some in a second and show you. I can hang the cars, one hanging from the other. They won't come loose unless the height is swings very, very wildly. And sergeant couplers would hold themselves in such a way when you make that rotation that they would stay in registration with each other, where I'm not so sure that you would get that with a KD, even if you could spin it. Now, you could spin a KD coupler in the same way that you would a sergeant narrow shake. You just need a narrow shake KD, or take a KD and file it down till you can get it narrow enough, run it through a tube, and put something on the far end of that tube that can spin. Put a spike, a pin through it or something. The thing will be able to spin in it. That's, it's not a perfect replication of the prototype, but we can't do that. So that would be doable. You can even make it replicate the prototype function where it only spins 180 degrees. And sergeants would work real well. Another alternative would be to use quote unquote dummy couplers. AccuRail used to provide them. I remember a couple of gray hairs ago, the AccuRail cars we used to buy used to come with a pair of dummy couplers in them. They were the Rapido style hook couplers. They were better than those, but they were dummy couplers, but they're KD compatible. But if you use dummy couplers, the plastic dummy couplers that don't open, yes, you'll have to lift the cars in and out of each other, but if you're running unit cold trades and you need to rotate them, you can use those dummy couplers and fabricate a spinning mechanism in them. One last thing before we go on. I was in Dallas a few weeks ago, got to visit a few guys and lay out. One of the gentlemen there I've been wanting a resistance iron for a while too, and I too would not let go of $500 for it. I wanted one, just not $500 back. He had bought the base off of eBay, I think, for around $60, and had built the set of tongs for it, and had built a standard pin style resistance tip using a socket, a deep well socket, and a big heavy duty steel screwdriver, and had run it through there, insulating it, and made himself a tip for $2.50 in parts in a few minutes with a drill press. So now I've been chatting with him since then. I'm going to get more information about it, because he ended up with a set of clips and a probe, effectively, and a base, all in sub $100 for a nice name brand piece of hardware. So I'm going to start putting that together now. So. Sorry, that was a bit. I missed a bunch of stuff earlier. All stuff I was interested in, sadly. But
just a note of curiosity, Andy, did you get that email about Free State Systems that I sent you?
Free State Systems?
Yeah. We had talked about a friend of mine in Baltimore that did brass etching and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to email the guy. He doesn't have a site and such.
Yeah, well, I did get in touch with him, and he has had a stroke and can't use the right size, so he can't. And I had emailed you that, but I never got a demon, so I didn't know if you really got it or not. So
I did. I'm sorry, email's so out of control with me. I live and die by email.
I understand.
All the time. Anyway, I really appreciate that.
He said he was going to look through all his junk and see what he had left laying around, so I might be able to come up with a few tidbits, but his stuff was really incredible. I mean, he did manhole covers that had 3 layers of etching in them, that, city names, and oh man, just his work was just so incredible. And it's really, he also did circuits for different signaling devices and stuff too. He's really electronics person, but he said he just really can't do it anymore. So a loss.
Well, and no question. I'd love to talk to him just to learn how he's doing some of the multi-layer etching. Me and Tim Wyman, who's been doing some of this etching stuff, and I've bought the parts, but I've been so busy here lately. I've got some hydrochloric acid and some of the stuff to do it with. I've been interested in it a long time. I think it's probably one of the best maker mechanisms you can do in the hobby. I mean, I've been etching circuit boards for 15 years, and I love etching as a weathering technique, even though if it is a little toxic, but I'm comfortable working with that stuff. And I've worked with hydrochloric acid when I worked for a laboratory. I'm not nervous about it per se with the right safety precautions.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier and cheaper than 3D printers. I've got a CNC router machine. It's a royal pain to mess with. And 3D printing is just starting to get there. With these resin printers, it's now at a point where economical hobby printers can do quality work. But still, the time you've got to invest on the computer to actually draw, coffee table for an indoor seat or something, that investment's fairly large. Etching's not bad. Etching's not too hard to get into.
Yeah, for a long time, he did everything in his kitchen sink with aquarium pumps and all kinds of just thrown together stuff, and his results were incredible even with that kind of stuff. Before he moved on, it just really good.
Well, I looked at that. I looked at some of that, the exact process. So I've got enough of the stuff to do some of it. I'm going to do it kind of manually to begin with, much the way Tim is right now, and get my feet wet with it. Well, I hope I don't get my feet wet. The stuff's pretty toxic.
Yeah, right.
But I've looked at some of the aquarium pumps that can be controlled with the Arduino aquarium software that's already available for controlling some of that. So I can try that process. I think I could get it into a pretty decent process where I could turn out some volume of parts. Because if you're going to do anything large, like signal masts, and I need a bunch of signal components, I would have to do reasonable volumes of parts.
Yeah, that's one thing he did too, was because we used, B&O, so he did the B&O semaphores and stuff, and the signal masts and the ladders, and all the parts that made up the whole piece. They were pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, well, B&Os are very, very close to what the NW used, which are the NW is closer to the Pitsy. The B&Os have the initial speed individual searchlight looking, but there's just a single color speed lights at the top and bottom. Those are available through NJ. Most of them are. And they have the one that I need, which is the tower with the walkway that has two masts above it. Sets off this. I need multiple of those. They make them in B&O configuration. But $100, $120 and you've got to rip them apart to rip all that B&O stuff out of them. That's painful.
Andy, Michael wants to know, what is your opinion on Z-Stuff signals compared to NJ International? He asked that earlier.
Yeah, they're not as fine of detailed, but they're actually not bad. They're better than the Oregon Rail Supply, which also aren't horrible, but they're pretty decent. They require some modification to get them right. My only complaint about Z-Stuff, and actually I've used them as an example. I wrote an article for the EMAG, years ago about this. What do you want your signal system to do? If your signal system is scenic in value, if you have a rail feeding layout and you want signals that operate for scenic value, you don't have a bunch of guys trying to truly prevent 187 scale cornfield needs. If you don't really need it for an operational value, Z-Stuff has it on lockdown. They've got the detectors right at the base of the signal that are IR. They do it on timers and all that stuff. It's not usable for an operating session per se, but if it's for scenic value, Z-Stuff's pretty good. And if you rip the some of the control mechanisms out of the Z-Stuff, they make a pretty good mast. I mean, it's a pretty good signal aspect.
Well, I guess Sam found his tip to the soldering iron.
I did.
All that.
Found it.
Good deal.
I walked past this like 300 times, and I don't know what I thought it was, but I forgot that it was that long. I thought it was like just this part.
God's whole element basically, besides to be able to hold the heat.
All right, this might be up your alley, Stu. Got a question here from GRE 2057. Does anybody know where I can find a good map of how a paper mill is laid out, as in where the buildings go? I'm building a paper mill complex on my layout.
A lot of the complexes would be laid out depending on the complex and the owner. They weren't all laid out the same to begin with. But what I would do, if you have in the state where you're at, or even you can go online and do this. I just use the university in the state where I live to get a lot of that kind of information because I have access to it. But you can get a lot of this online. You can Google it, and a lot of times you'll get basic information. If you want maps of actual layouts and stuff, you've got to do a little deeper research than that. You might come across it online. I found some stuff like that even in the Library of Congress, just online for unusual things like that. That was just ended up being a good source that I didn't expect it to be honest with you. I'm sure other people have done research on that type of thing and probably can give you better clues than that, but that's just my take on where I would go to start looking.
But speaking of that, one of the layouts I visited in Dallas, and I can share a link to. He actually just recently posted on his Facebook page, and I'll share that on Motorama Guy's Facebook page after the show. He's doing a really large, like 40 feet long paper complex. That's just,
Man.
And he posted some pictures of the prototype arrangement and a couple variants of his arrangement. It was asking some input on that. That was one of the best track plan layouts for one particular instance. And I'm sure that varied tremendously by scale, by what era they were built in, how much modification they had done, what products they produced. You know, they didn't all produce the same paper products. I think the paper industry is one of the top few model, one of the top few. I'm a big fan of huge industry on model railroads. Less, but larger stuff. That's why I like coal mining and steel mill and all those big things. Paper industry is one of those top few that I would for sure model, especially if I was modeling New England or something.
Yeah, Driver was asking, what was it? Yeah, did you mean on Google Maps for layout maybe? But you were saying the Library of Congress.
Yeah, Google Maps is, I mean, if you can find an industry there, that's a big help. I mean, I don't leave any stone unturned when I'm trying to research something. Any single source out there, even if I think they probably don't have it, I go and look. And, a lot of times even though they may not have everything you might need, there might be one little tidbit there that you'll find that you will not find anywhere else that you go to look. So I go through every resource I can do when I'm researching. I mean, I have as much fun doing the research as I do building the buildings and the stuff I do. I've spent years and years and years just going to archives and university libraries and online and private collections. And I mean, I really get into it. I really do. I've got this massive research area built up now of stuff that I've collected just to work from. But I still look. But just don't leave any stone unturned. That's all I can say. Anywhere you can go, look.
Yeah,
I love the history too. In my opinion on the history, if you're modeling even earlier, it gets harder. The further back you're trying to find history, the much harder it gets. You would not believe how much dead tree, how much paperwork is just lost for all time, or the photos that just weren't taken. Think of all the things, if you don't have a parent or grandparent, think of all the things you'd ask them if they're not around anymore, unfortunately. You just don't know when the structures are there that you might need to document something. Yeah. So I don't care how much, unless you're modeling today, if you're modeling a period in history like I modeled 1950, if you use every source you could possibly imagine, you're still going to be guessing a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, we got a comment here from Charles Kirsch. Hopefully that was right. He said he went to a train show in Gaston, Alabama last Saturday. They built a 79 by 20 foot model in HO of what Gaston looked like, the largest prototype layout east of the Mississippi River. He said it's in a permanent location in Gaston in a cultural center. It's a good example of what to do a prototype can and can't do.
I think that might be the one that Depots by John worked on. I can't remember for sure if that's what he did. You guys we ought to look on Depots by John's website he did a complete city, a small town. I believe it was a southern town down there, and they modeled the entire town. Houses are, all scratch built off photos of a certain, 1955 or something. It was spectacularly large. I'll look that up in a minute and see if that's who was, because he had some photos of it on his webpage.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, if you're doing something truly recreating something, like I've said before, and if you've watched our argument about that, as it's actually being released on the View series right now, a few of those, or one or two of those, are out now, I think. We were arguing about that. Is that you can't be you can be a prototype modeler if you're running a museum or something like that, maybe. But for all of us that are trying to build layouts, especially operational layouts, you're going to sacrifice. You're not going to be at 100 or even 90%. You're going to be at 75, 80%. So all the guys who say I'm a diligent prototyper, and I just try to get as close as I can. And I guess some, and I don't feel bad when I have to, but if I guessed, it's because I had to.
Yeah, there's no way to be 100% accurate with everything unless you've got a tiny town that you're modeling. If you're modeling a big city, 70 feet won't do a big city.
Oh gosh, no section of it. I mean, you model, if you're modeling Chicago or something, you got 70 feet, you're going to model 2 or 3 blocks down one little strip along the river or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I say about modeling yards. If you're very close to being a prototype modeler at all, let's say above the 50%, the freelance, fictitious on one side, prototype being on the other. If you're up above the 50% mark, if you have a small space, unless you love yard operations, if you love yard operations and you have a small space, just model a yard. Just the yard. Do it right. Model an industry yard and a little bit of the industry. Call it a day. You'll enjoy the crap out of it. But if you are trying to emulate road trains, freight trains moving over the road, then skip the yard. Just skip it all together. Have a siding or two where they interchange with another railroad, or where they service a particular industry. I sacrificed the yard on my layout, and even with 400 feet of mainline track that I would end up having, there's not enough room to model a yard. It would have took my entire. I could either model the yard, or I could model 400 feet of mainline track and 5 branches and 2 railroads. So.
Yeah, Justin Johnson said for paper mills, I built a 4-foot by 15-foot paper mill for my layout in N scale.
Wow, that was good. That's not an unreasonable size in HO scale to do a decent paper plant with building flats and such.
Yeah, he does good work too. He does some incredible stuff.
I'll have to go check that out then. I'm fascinated by paper plants. Any huge.
Have you got Chad up, Andy?
Yes, sir.
All right, I got to step out a minute. If you'll kind of keep an eye on it.
Well, I'll try to keep him in line. I'm not as good at herding cats as you are, but I'll try to keep him in line. All right, boys. No, I love. You got to remember. Okay, so it'd be impossible to model a paper plant. What we're modeling is the trackage of the paper plant and an inch or two of buildings as they stick against the wall. That's much more accomplishable. Actually, let's see. Trevor Marshall, right? I think that's right. Trevor Marshall, he's on the Trainmaster TV, and he's got a website. He's got a small S-scale layout. He's got a website that was related to a podcast he was a part of. Actually, it's one of my favorite podcasts at Model Railroading a few years ago. And he's got a nice, thank you, Ralph. He's got a nice website, and it has a lot of stuff about his modeling efforts and brass locomotive work, his S-scale or SN2 work, and his current S-scale layout. But he's got a subpage on there called Accomplishable Model Railroads with a bunch of track plans, like a pretty effective list of, and I really love the use of the term accomplishable, because people have these ideas that they want to bite off something spectacular, and it's one way or the other. It's either you build a 4x8 with a circle of track that's going to get boring real quick, or you try to bite off something spectacularly large. And the compromise in the middle, I really like the Toma movement that Joe Fugit's doing. That's kind of what I'm doing too, although I didn't have that title when I started to work with. or something like those accomplishable layouts, small switching style, kind of layouts mid high-ish, that let you enjoy operating. And they're not decades and decades of work by teams of staff to build. I think there's a real tendency to. I mean, I realize that too. I don't care what I tend to jump into things and go too far as always, but
Yeah, I always bite off more than I can chew.
would I recommend that to most people?
Oh yeah, I do too.
Yeah, always bite off a little more. It's trying to eat the whole hog in one sitting. That's probably not recommendable.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see these layouts that are quote unquote private layouts in people's basements or something, these large projects. Those are teams of people, really. They may not be organized. There may not be a club name. They may not have a 501c3 nonprofit organization, but that guy has a bunch of loyal friends who also want him to have that layout. And they're showing up every Tuesday night, as long as the coffee's hot. And man, you could build a layout, but never underestimate the value of a big staff of free labor or very cheap labor.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and if they're not there doing it, a lot of times they're building buildings in their homes and then bringing them or something like that. There's usually a lot of people working on a layout like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've got them in the area and you've got if you leave it, so you end up with one or two struggles. It seems like you either end up in these no-man lands like I am, which is where I am, and I never figured I would end up staying here. I've done everything I could. I left here, never intended to end up back in Kentucky, and nobody comes to Kentucky that wasn't born here and isn't stranded here for some reason. That's like, I seen a comedian years ago said something about the Midwest. He said, "You see out in the Midwest all those broken wagon wheels set out front? That's where somebody's granddaddy, a couple generations back. That's where the wagon broke down. Otherwise, nobody would be living there. Kentucky, whatever." But there's no modelers anywhere around me. There's a Lionel guy the next city over, real close to us. There's some Hobbytown USA. There's not. I don't have the staff. Either that, or you live in one of the real hotbeds of model railroading. Kansas City, Toronto, some of those that are just. And then the problem is there's 50 spectacular layouts that people are going to and operating on in round robin styles and such. So there's a limited amount of talent available to work on your layout, either because of there's a drought of talent in my area for that, or because that talent is already has so many other layouts that are so far along to work on. So you got to be able to get real productive.
I don't know how to compare where I live in the middle of West Virginia with where you live. That would be an interesting comparison.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people that you would think would be interested in model railroading. There's not a lot of, it's not like there's a big nightlife here, and such. So you'd think they'd be interested in it, but, I'm not sure exactly what, quote unquote, normal people do in there. But it just, model railroading just doesn't seem to be a popular hobby right here anymore. It was years and years ago when I was growing up. It was 20 years ago, and it's gone. I mean, all those old fellas I knew who did it then, I don't know, none of them are with it. So,
even in Fredericksburg, where I go down and work in that railroad museum, we were looking at pictures of some of us that started the organization back in the 80s, and when we went and picked up speeders and stuff, we were all model railroaders. That's how we funded rebuilding the real equipment, was with model train shows and stuff. And we were looking at the pictures, and when we came up to West Virginia to pick up some of the speeders and stuff that they're still using for equipment, there's none of them that are alive anymore. I'm the only one left out of the whole picture of all these guys that started all this. I'm like, oh, come on.
Well, there are so many greats.
Oh, yeah. There are some other model railroaders around, but one guy's into Lionel. I do HO gauge. That's really, we're not going to help we might go look at each other's railroads, but we're not going to help each other a lot. And there's a couple other guys that are just so busy that maybe eventually when they retire, maybe they'll get back into it. But right now, that's not an option. So,
yeah. Well, see, I thought that myself too, but my thinking was it would have to be when I retired, when I, come out of the hobby as a late teenager, early 20s, as I, realized there was no way for me to participate in the hobby given the traveling and moving and military and all the things I was doing. There was just no good way to participate in the hobby. I figured it was going to be retirement before I could get back. I did, I have calmed down and settled down and career-wise to where I could participate in it, but it's not the same as it was all those years ago when there were groups of, when we used to get together, somebody's layout every week. So
yeah, even in Grafton where we did give it a go, we lost our building, so now we don't have a home, and so I'd have to drive a little ways to get there, but now we have no home to be in to do it. So just another issue. How you doing, Ralph?
Good. I take it you're doing well?
Yeah. Struggling and sludging through life. Woohoo. Playing with my trains. That's all good.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Trying to stay out of trouble. I'm not saying I'm doing it, just trying to stay out of trouble.
Yeah. I don't even try anymore. I just, you're going to get caught.
Well, it doesn't matter what I do. I'm always in trouble with my wife. So.
Well, I just ended that issue.
It's the memory is the problem. It's that you got in trouble 35 years ago or something, and you're never getting over it. So
is that what it is?
I don't. But it doesn't help my personal case when
Fair enough.
Nah, I should have probably kept my first wife. She was really good about the train thing.
That seems to be somewhat rare. You got a few people, that seem to be pretty supportive. You got, a few very, very rare examples of people like, Fred Hell is to Miles that actively participates in it. That seems to be a spectacular rarity.
Yeah, I send people pictures of like what I'm doing, and they'll be like, "That's so cool," and I'm like, "Don't lie to me."
Yeah.
Well, it is kind of cool when you're looking at a picture, but when you have to go put hands on, it's different.
Yeah, it's a lot different when you're staring at it.
Well, people have very different ideas of what cool is at different points in their life or not. There's a time when at 8 or 10 years old, there's a certain thing that's really cool that's not at 15, and then 20, an entirely different thing becomes cool when fast cars and girls are introduced to you. And then it changes by the time you're 30, 40. What's cool changes tremendously as you get older.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm 60. By the time you get this old, it's like, wow, I lived through all those other phases. I'm going to play with trains. Time to play with trains.
And I find so many things. I think that for, when you're really young, it's like a lot of things are cool. All kinds of things are cool. And then there's a while there where not very much is cool at all, basically. Or very specific things are. And then the older I get, the more things that I find are interesting. Anybody making anything, I'm fascinated by whatever it is. I want to understand it. I don't care. They can be making anything, and I'm interested.
Making music.
Well, today I made about 300 plants out of a bunch of little clumps of plants. If you ever want to come help me and learn how to pot up plants, you're more than welcome, Andy.
Anything, don't get me wrong. I love my career and my career choice.
I understand.
Working in IT is great, and I like making money as good as anybody likes making money. I am a genuine capitalist. But there's something that I missed about. I worked as a carpenter in some years when the .com was collapsing. And I really, because my dad had been a contractor all his life, so I started a company and run some guys and built some houses and stuff. There was a joy of putting something into the world that wasn't there prior to. When you show up on Monday on a fresh foundation, and by the end of the week you were standing on top of a house that was there because you would, some other guys put some sweat and blood, into putting it up.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that when I was looking for, some hobby to be active again 4 or 5 years ago, not sure if I get back into model railroading because I really didn't know that I had the space for it. It just took some very tricky, political discussions with the Bureau of Land Management here to negotiate. I would say that, if there was a court involved in this, there's some fraud involved in how I ended up with my trade room. But regardless, so we'll see how that, we'll see how it all plays out over time or whatever. But I not hedging my legal bets with the argument I have for that. But I didn't think I had room. But when I started looking at hobbies, one of the key things that I was interested in was something to make something, to put something in the world that wasn't there before. If you don't do it with computers.
I make plants. I make about 15,000 plants a year. And I find ways when I do trimmings to use cuttings to make trees and stuff. So it helps my hobby too.
The best scenery materials there are, just about exclusively. There's a few exceptions, like leaf flake is needs to be processed. But just about everything else that makes the 3D vegetation that is has changed model railroading scenery so considerably in the last decade plus. I'm talking with a few people about putting a show together to discuss that with a scenery vendor and a few YouTubers that you guys have surely heard of to put a discussion together about where scenery has went in the last 15, 20 years as it's changed so much. Pretty much exclusively it's natural products.
Mm-hmm.
Even if some of it's rope, even then the hip rope is some of the best stuff you get for making the hedges and stuff. But
Andy, did you see GRE's comment?
Oh yeah. I see the last one. Yeah, I will find that. Are you on Facebook, Jerry? I'll because I'm definitely going to post a link to his Facebook page. He's got a bunch of information on there about it. He's a recent post, and you'll want to go subscribe to him surely if you're on Facebook. Chris Atkins, and it's a quite large paper complex he's building. But he had really done the legwork on it and really done a good job with the little Facebook post there.
He said,
I'll post that. Good deal. Well, I'll post that over on our Facebook page, our Model Railroading Live's Facebook page after the show. I'll go paste a link to that particular thing that Chris put up. But you'll probably want to subscribe to him because he's been working on his paper plant recently, and it's complex and it's really compelling what he's doing at very, very large scale. Which it's HO scale, but it's a large project. His whole layout is a spectacularly large project for a single. For an individual to take on.
Call me Jesse.
All right, Jesse, I can do it.
GRE. Alrighty. Go ahead.
Now, I had debated doing just a show or two on my channel of just natural resources, mosses, the various things that I use, because most people walk over this stuff every day and don't realize it's free materials they could be using on their railroad. And yeah, there is some processing to keep it in decent shape over a long period of time you need to do before you actually use it. But there's just so much free material out there that you pay an arm or a leg for in a store.
Well, a lot of those products are. I mean, all Super is it's a natural product. You could grow that plant yourself. It doesn't grow naturally around here, but you could grow it yourself around here with, bring it in the winter and, in big pots. And all I do to like the sagebrush and stuff is like glycerin and water, 1 to 3 or something parts glycerin and water, dip it, let it dry.
Yeah.
It'll last as long as I probably care about it lasting.
Yeah, just like the lichen moss. Several of the mosses I use the glycerin process for, and a lot of them you can just use an Elmer's glue and water mix and just dip them, and there's just lots of things you can do to natural products, and they're free.
Yep, absolutely. And if you're building a layout of any size, scenery materials are going to break the bank.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're doing it at any kind of, if you're going for any kind of high caliber, man, you start doing the stuff like Stephen Bennett, or Rob Bennett, but on his channel, Stephen Bennett,
Yeah.
what he's doing with all the mats and stuff, and I'm using them too. But if you do an entire layout with grass mats,
Oh
man,
man. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, we kind of run this one over a little bit, but started out with a little technical difficulty. So,
well, I'm good for that. The first part, maybe the second part of the technical difficulty part too, but the first part, I'm sure good for.
yeah. So we'll wind this one up. Not much left on the schedule for this month. Got one more Thursday night show for next week. That'll be it for the month of April. We'll be into May's show, so that's going to be rather interesting. Anyway, hope everybody has a happy Easter. They do celebrate the Easter.
Yeah, you too.
May you get
You
a
too.
bunch of candy eggs and all that good stuff. Make your dentist happy. I'm about to a point where I'll be able to mail mine in, won't have to make an appointment no more. All righty, y'all have a good weekend. Hope it's a dry weekend for you. And we shall see you next Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. So, be good.
Always good.